virgin bride markets, and the craziest, strangest markets you must visit at least once in your life. Welcome to Discovery Fact. The more you watch, the more goosebumps you get. The more you listen, the less you dare to sleep alone. My friend, when you hear the word market, what's the very first image that pops into your mind? Familiar vendor calls, the smell of fresh vegetables, fish splashing in their baskets, or vendors chatting animatedly while selling their goods. Yeah, that's what most people imagine because, well, it's just a market, right? What could be so strange about it? But what if I told you that somewhere in this world, there are markets where the goods aren't vegetables or clothing, but things so unbelievable you'd have to rub your eyes several times just to believe they're real? Can you imagine a market where single women are openly advertised and offered for sale like merchandise? Or a food paradise filled entirely with terrifying dishes, so creepy that just looking at them sends chills down your spine and one bite is enough to haunt you for an entire week? And that's not all. There are even markets stacked with skulls and bones. Just hearing about them already gives off an eerie, unsettling vibe. Let's dive in and explore all of this together in this video. The Virgin Bride Market, where brides are bargained like merchandise. If you think that in this so-called 5.0 era, love and marriage are nothing more than a few left and right swipes on dating apps, then you're seriously mistaken. The world is vast, and somewhere in the heart of glamorous Europe, there is still a place where marriage doesn't begin with romance, but instead opens with bargaining. Sounds intense, right? But this is a real story from Bulgaria, home to a market whose name alone makes many people frown, the Virgin Bride Market. There are no flashy LED signs, no rows of neatly arranged stalls. Yet whenever the time comes, this market becomes lively in a very unique way. People don't bring vegetables and they don't sell clothes. Instead, families bring along their daughters, young girls aged only 15 to 18, to find a husband. No one knows exactly when this market first began. All that's known is that it takes place 4 times a year, as regularly as a long-wound traditional clock. On market day, parents prepare their daughters as carefully as if it were the most important day of their lives. New clothes, short skirts, neat makeup, tidy hair, clean and fragrant appearances. The girls blend into the bustling atmosphere, dancing to music, partly for fun, partly to attract the attention of their future in-laws. On the other side, young men stand in separate groups, watching, evaluating, and choosing. Physical intimacy is strictly forbidden. The closest interaction allowed is a handshake or a few polite greetings. It feels less like a romantic encounter and more like a casting audition, except the prize is a marriage. Once both sides feel that there is a signal, the adults step in. At this point, emotions are put on hold and negotiations begin, no different from a business transaction. The price of a bride typically ranges from about $2,800 to $5,600. When an agreement is reached, money changes hands, and from that moment on, the girl officially belongs to the groom. But that's not all. The most important and also the most controversial condition is that the girls must be virgins. Yes, they must be virgins. This point is so important it bears repeating. If the requirement is not met, the family must return the money, and the girl may face rejection and isolation from the entire community. Because of this fear, some parents even pull their daughters out of school as soon as they have their first menstrual cycle, hoping to preserve them so they will have a better chance of marrying well. Just hearing this is enough to make many people sigh. I feel it too, let alone those hearing about it for the first time. Naturally, this custom has drawn heavy criticism from modern society for turning girls into commodities that are priced and bargained over. But as the saying goes, local customs outweigh royal decrees. The Kalaiji community, with a population of around 18,000 people, continues to cling firmly to these deeply conservative traditional values. Ironically, Bulgaria has a higher female population than male, and women having difficulty finding husbands is not uncommon. Yet this market still exists, still controversial, and no one knows exactly how long it will continue. Perhaps the story of the Virgin Bride Market will remain a long-running drama, forcing the world to ask, to what extent should tradition be respected, and where is the line that should never be crossed? Hearing all this, I bet a few guys are already muttering to themselves, calculating exchange rates and checking flights to Bulgaria, right? Jokes aside, though, in all honesty, those girls deserve the right to choose their own futures, rather than becoming merchandise in a so-called destiny-deciding marketplace. China's child-selling marriage markets, where marriage becomes an inventory problem. For those who are already happily married, hearing about something called a marriage market probably just makes them scoff. Love and marriage can be sold at a market now? It sounds ridiculous, right? But the more people live in modern society, the more they realize that getting married has become harder than climbing to the sky. Falling in love is easy. Easy like putting candy into a child's mouth. A few cups of milk tea, a couple of movie tickets, and suddenly it's hand in hand, lips almost touching, dating everywhere. If you've got a bit of looks and a bit of financial stability, sometimes all it takes is a flirtatious glance and boom, someone's already taken, or even ready to jump pots without hesitation. But when it comes to marriage, that's a whole different story. It's like trying to climb a ladder to the heavens. No matter how hard you climb, you never quite get there. Take me, for example. Dating is fine, but talk about getting married right now and I get cold feet. No wonder I'm still painfully single. Among more than 8 billion people, after several relationships, I still can't find a single person willing to walk with me to the very end. When breakups happen, the reasons are endless. I'm too poor. You're great, but I'm sorry. My mom won't allow it. Your dad says we're not compatible. Our feng shui elements clash. You name it. Hearing all that just makes you want to sigh. And that's exactly why finding a suitable life partner has become a serious challenge for millions of people around the world, especially in China, where there are around 30 million men unable to find wives. The problem is so severe that society has given birth to an extremely unique service known as the marriage market. Just hearing the name already sounds commercial, doesn't it? And indeed, it really does resemble a market. It takes place on weekends, it's crowded and lively, except for one key difference. What's being advertised here isn't vegetables or meat, but the children of the parents themselves. These products must be brand new and unused, in other words, never married. Every Saturday and Sunday in large public parks, you can see parents and even grandparents gathering together holding papers in their hands, eyes full of hope. On those sheets are detailed profiles, height, weight, gender, personality, and educational background. For women, there are additional notes about domestic skills, whether they can cook and take care of a family. For men, it's even more intense. Job title, income, whether they own a home, whether they have a car. Just skimming through them feels exactly like reading product descriptions on online shopping platforms. And that's not all. Parents also clearly list their criteria for a future son or daughter-in-law, so others know how to match couples who are on equal footing, avoiding mismatched pairings. Some parents get even more creative, attaching these personal profiles to umbrellas and turning them into mobile booths, blocking the sun while advertising their children at the same time. Two birds with one stone. Anyone who understands Chinese would probably laugh out loud reading those signs. Because the number of unmarried men is so high, the standards for men are often quite strict. But interestingly, once a man owns a house, a car, and multiple property deeds, many other criteria suddenly fade into the background, or stop mattering altogether. And what about women? Since they're considered scarce goods, sometimes simply being unmarried and knowing to come inside when it rains is enough to qualify for an interview. Add a bit of attractiveness and basic cooking skills, and parents will compete for them like shoppers chasing discounted items. The most famous of these markets is the People's Park Marriage Market in Shanghai, which has existed since 2004. No one knows whether, after all these years, parents have managed to clear out all their unsold inventory at home. One thing is certain, though, their children are utterly exhausted by it all. Honestly, even outsiders watching from afar feel drained. Imagine how it feels for those directly involved. As for me, single or not, I'm determined not to let my parents do that to me. The world's most dangerous railway market. If someone gave you money and told you to shop at a market located right next to an active railroad track, would you dare to do it? Just hearing about it already gives me goosebumps. My heart feels like it's about to jump out of my chest. Some of you might think I'm joking, right? But the world is a strange place, my friends, because a market like that truly exists. That market is called Maeklong Market, located in Samut Songkhram, about 43 miles west of Bangkok, Thailand. It is an open-air market stretching nearly 1,640 feet along an active railway line that still operates daily, and it has been around for more than 100 years. Many people call it by a more down-to-earth name, the railway market. No exaggeration here, Mae Klong is considered one of the most heart-stoppingly located markets in the world. Some international travel magazines have even given it a title that sends chills down your spine. The most dangerous market on the planet. And yet, oddly enough, foreign tourists are absolutely obsessed with this place. They flock here in droves just to witness, with their own eyes, a train passing straight through a crowded market. As for me, I can only shake my head in disbelief. I honestly don't understand why people are willing to trade safety for a just-for-the-experience moment. After all, when you really think about it, the market itself sells very ordinary items. Fresh fish, raw meat, vegetables, spices, no different from countless other open-air markets. What really makes your hair stand on end is how the stalls are set up. They're built temporarily, pressed tightly against the railway tracks. Some vendors even display their goods directly on the tracks themselves, literally meaning that wherever the train goes, the merchandise is right there. At this point, many of you might be wondering the same logical question I did. Which came first, the market or the railway? The answer is, the Mae Klong market came first. From what I've learned, the Mae Klong railway line was built in 1905 to connect with Bangkok, and decades later it was laid straight through the already existing market. Unsurprisingly, the locals have grown so accustomed to this rhythm of life that it feels as normal as eating daily meals. Trains pass through 8 times a day, 7 days a week. Each time the warning bell rings continuously for about 3 minutes, all the vendors immediately pull back their awnings and slide their goods tightly to the sides. The market pauses for just a few brief minutes while the train rolls through. Then, as if nothing ever happened, everything returns to normal. Stalls reopen, buying and selling resumes, vendors laugh and chat, customers bargain. Everything flows so smoothly it's almost unbelievable. After 2 difficult years during the pandemic, when it had to shut down for a while, this unique market has now reopened to visitors. At first, seeing images of a train gliding inches away from the goods genuinely shocked me. It looked incredibly dangerous. But the more I watched, the more I realized something important. For the locals, this is simply everyday life. And when something becomes that familiar, it naturally becomes safe. Some things may sound terrifying to outsiders, but to those living it, they're as ordinary as a bag of sugar or a carton of milk. Scun Insect Market, where millions of stomachs are put to the ultimate test of courage. When Cambodia is mentioned, many people immediately think of the majestic Angkor Wat or ancient temples steeped in history. But beyond those deeply historical landmarks, this country has another place that, just by hearing its name, is guaranteed to make your stomach feel uneasy and start rumbling in confusion. That place is Scun Market, also known among travelers by a name that alone can make you shudder. The most famous insect market in Cambodia. This is a place where you don't even need to eat anything. Just standing there and looking around is enough to make your heart beat faster than usual. Scun Market is located right in the small town of the same name and has long been a familiar stop for backpackers and adventurous tourists who enjoy weird and unique experiences. The moment you step into the market, the first thing that hits your eyes isn't fresh vegetables or colorful fruit, but trays piled high with insects, neatly arranged, golden, glossy, and overflowing. Crickets, grasshoppers, silkworm pupae, scorpions, spiders, even cockroaches. Each one looks incredibly fresh, almost as if they're just missing a friendly wave to greet customers. The smell is surprisingly appetizing since everything is properly fried, grilled, and seasoned. But the appearance? That's a completely different story. Honestly, the first time most people see these dishes, all they can do is swallow hard, not because they're craving them, but because they're scared. Some of the spiders are about the size of an adult hand, with curled legs piled on top of one another like they're throwing a party. Meanwhile, the vendors are always smiling, enthusiastically inviting customers. Try it, it's delicious, super crispy. It sounds tempting, sure, but your hands hesitate. You're not sure whether to grab a skewer or grab your sandals and run. That was exactly how I felt the first time I set foot here. And you know what? Among all the mental challenge dishes at Scun Market, the most famous one has to be deep-fried tarantulas. These are giant spiders, and just looking at them is enough to send chills down your spine. But locals confidently insist that they're incredibly tasty. The body is soft and rich, while the legs are crunchy. Some even describe the flavor as a mix between chicken and fish. Hearing that alone is enough to make your brain freeze for a moment. Whether it's truly that good or simply a matter of being used to it, I honestly can't say. I guess I'll have to come back someday, work up some courage, try it myself, and then tell you all about it. Of course, insects here aren't only fried, they're also grilled, stir-fried, soaked in liquor, and seasoned in all kinds of ways to suit different tastes. For Cambodians, these aren't novelty foods eaten just for fun. They're part of a long-standing culinary tradition. During difficult times, insects were an important source of protein, and over time they evolved into local specialties that spark curiosity among visitors. That's why Skun Market isn't just a place to buy food, it's a place that tells a story about culture, customs, and how people adapt to life. Some people come here just to take photos and videos for content. Others close their eyes and try a bite just to know what it feels like. But no matter which type you are, the experience at Skun Market is incredibly hard to forget. After all, it's not every day that you're faced with the choice of eating a crispy fried spider, or running away with your dignity intact. So, has anyone here ever tried eating insects? What did it feel like? Tell me about it, because honestly, even though I've been here myself, I still haven't been brave enough to try. Kind of a shame, really. Hargeisa Money Market, where you use money to buy money. Hearing about using money to go to a market and buy more money probably makes a lot of people laugh and wonder, so, what do you even buy it for? Normally, when people have money, they spend it on food, clothes, and all kinds of things. Not take money to a market to exchange it for even more money. But the world is full of places that defy logic, and Hargeisa is a perfect example. If you want to see money laid out for sale like vegetables and fish at a market, you have to set foot in Somaliland, a region in northern Africa whose name alone already sounds unfamiliar. Somaliland declared independence in 1991, has its own government, military, and currency, yet ironically, it is not internationally recognized as an independent country. On official world maps, the name Somaliland is almost invisible. That in-between status has given rise to one of the strangest markets on the planet, the Hargeisa Money Market. Step into this market and the first thing that overwhelms you isn't the crowd, it's the sheer amount of cash. The money here isn't neatly tucked into wallets or locked away in safes. Instead, it's stacked into thick bundles and massive piles loaded onto trucks and carts or spread directly on the ground over tarps. From a distance, you might think people are selling potatoes or onions. Get closer and you suddenly realize it's all cash. Try telling this story somewhere else and no one would believe it, especially if you brought it back home to tell the elders. At Hargeisa Money Market, money is traded just like vegetables or fish. Buyers come, sellers negotiate, and bundles of cash are casually handed back and forth. Sometimes bills even fall onto the ground and no one rushes to pick them up because to the locals, this is as ordinary as everyday life. It sounds bizarre, but for the people here, it's a long-established routine. The official currency used in Somaliland is the Somaliland shilling. The problem is that this currency is not internationally recognized and has no official exchange rate with major world currencies. Simply put, once you take it out of Somaliland, it's almost useless. That's why locals often have to sell large amounts of their local currency to exchange it for US dollars or other foreign currencies that hold value in international trade. And here's the part that makes you laugh and cry at the same time. To exchange about 100 US dollars, roughly a bit over 2 million Vietnamese dong, you don't just need a thick wallet, you need a sack, literally. Because Somaliland shilling bills have very low denominations, exchanging them into dollars requires carrying an enormous volume of cash, far more than you can hold in your hands. People joke that here, you're not afraid of pickpockets, you're afraid of your arms getting sore from carrying money that's too heavy. Precisely because of this uniqueness, most visitors to Somaliland make sure to stop by Hargeisa Money Market to buy a few bundles of cash as souvenirs. Normally, when you travel abroad, bringing home 1 or 2 banknotes already feels pretty cool. But in Somaliland, if you want, you can haul back an entire sack of money, snap a photo, and post it online, guaranteed to leave people wide-eyed. No need to show off gold or jewelry, just showing off piles of local currency is shocking enough. On the surface, it looks amusing. But on a deeper level, Hargeisa Money Market clearly reflects Somaliland's unique situation. A place that has all the elements of a country, yet still lacks an official place on the world map. Money is so abundant it's sold by the sack, yet its value remains fragile. Would you want to visit this place just to experience what it feels like to be a tycoon for a day? If so, what are you waiting for? Pack your backpack and go. Hargeisa is waiting for you day and night. You see, the world is far bigger than we often imagine, and each strange market is like a small slice of human culture and daily life. Some places trade in silence. Some require sacks to exchange money. Some eat crunchy insects. Others weigh and price marriage itself. It sounds funny at first, but the more you think about it, the stranger and more fascinating it becomes. If one day you had the chance to visit places like these, would you want to experience buying and selling in such extraordinary markets? Leave a comment and share your thoughts, and don't forget to like, subscribe to Discovery Fact, and continue exploring these weird yet endlessly fascinating journeys with us. For now, goodbye, and see you next time.